Hi everyone, welcome back. So here we're going to do our November tree, and of course because we're on the theme of crystals, I thought I would give you trees on a crystal. I call these tree huggers, and they're really good for crystals that are a little bit bigger, a little bit rough, like this beautiful amethyst right here. And I'll show you how to do all this here in a minute, but I just want to stir your imaginations before we do. So you can see how I might come around this crystal and hug it with beautiful tree sculpture. I'll show us how to do that in a second, but that's a good candidate for this. Certainly it's a beautiful way to wrap your selenite crystals that might seem odd. Like here's a nice big selenite slab that I have. It's big enough to be a beautiful piece of jewelry, but oddly shaped for a wire wrap. So a great solution would be to put a gorgeous tree sculpture on both sides of this. And then I'll show you how to make a bail that's very cute and attractive. And then literally you can hang your gorgeous selenite with your tree of life in front of it on your beautiful neck. So I'm hoping to stir some imagination. The other thing we might try is how about a tree on a beautiful seashell slice? You wouldn't maybe think that you could do this, but you can. So that would be gorgeous. We don't have to beat out the top of our tree. We could, and it would be cute if we had little green specks here and there, and then I wove the tree. And this is actually a double-sided situation, so I'll show you how we grab the object that we choose to hug with our tree. And what about an old piece of jewelry that we want to upcycle? This is a gorgeous shell carving pendant that I had, but a little old school, but it's still beautiful. So I could also set up shells like this. And I pulled this shell out to give you an idea, but of course that could be a beautiful clamshell, right? Big giant clamshell that you might have, or some big fancy shell from the ocean you collected. And again, I'll show you how we do this with this is actually a two-sided tree, but look how beautiful that can be, right? And again, you could even put little beads or not, right? All right. I think these little selenite crystals are probably too small for full-blown trees, but I pull them out because maybe they're not. Maybe I could have a big winding root, a branch, big thick one, kind of snake up, and then have my small branches kind of break out as my sculpture climbs up this big crystal. I'm kind of really loving how that looks. And I might want to hang my crystal wand on my neck and have it handy for various reasons, if not just because it's gorgeous. So I might show us how to do this, and take our crystal roots around our beautiful wand and sculpt up and maybe add some beautiful blingy small gemstones up there too. So don't think you can't do something like this in a beautiful tree sculpture. And certainly you can do them if they're smaller, but I kind of think they're fun if they're big like that one. So anyway, I hope that's stirring your imaginations. And then if you're not going to wear it around your neck as jewelry, but you have a beautiful slab that you favor, you could also sculpt a nice scene on the rock and then just have it be a piece that you have on your desk that you can look at. And we could even make a little wire holder, a stand for it, so you could set it like this and have a little 3D sculpture there of your tree, right? How beautiful could that be? This is just a tumbled stone, and so is this one. I think I got them from, one of those little buckets where you can get a bunch of them for a few dollars, but even these would be beautiful for the tree sculpture because, again, we're going to use the other half of our wire and encase the object within the branches so the body of it can be sculpted. So look how beautiful that one might be. I can't remember what this is, but it's pretty. And it could just be a nice big rock that I love and want to hug with my tree. Okay. This is petrified wood. Oh my God, it's so cute because it looks like a tree trunk. So what about that? Oh my goodness. How darling is that? And then again, we go to the other side and we do the, a second tree with the other half, so you have an opportunity to sculpt up both sides of this, but we work one side at a time. So these are super fun, whether they be sculptures for you to maybe put into your miniatures using your crystals and your trees to hold on to them, or using your tree huggers as pendants, because that would even be a magnificent pendant also, wouldn't it? Even though it's simple and organic and beautiful. Especially if I put some little peridot chips and all of that up here, okay? Or if I wanted to make it into a sculpture, maybe I'm doing something like this, and I'm making my tree just flat in 3D that I could put on a nice board, picture board that I might be making with my stones, especially if I put them together in sceneries like this, okay? Just to stir your imaginations up a little bit, right? But we're a jewelry channel, so we're going to make this into jewelry. We're going to use our crystals, and I'll show you how I started this little sculpture. I think if you've been following my Tree of Life series, then you should know very well how to sculpt out a tree by now. But for you newbies maybe joining me just this very first time, let me show you what I do. So I take these 6 inches of cardboard, and I take my big spool of 28 gauge wire, and that's the wire I prefer for my trees because it's fine enough that you can get some very nice details. And you can blend the wires too. But anyway, I put a little catch and I snap the wire in from the spool, and then I go around this from the main spool, the big spool, and then I go around 30 or so times to get a tree of this thickness, maybe 36, maybe 40 if I want to be thicker on a bigger crystal, maybe 25 if I want to go smaller on a smaller crystal and make a finer tree. Okay, so because it's 6 inches per side, then obviously every round is 1 foot. So you might be using up to 30 or 40 feet per these tree sculptures. Don't be shocked. It's small wire. And you work with it, for our tree sculptures in the past, we would, snip it in half and work with it at the 6 inches. But for these frameless tree huggers, we're going to use it at full length, so 1 foot. And I just took my cutters and I put them blade up, and I went ahead and cut my wires off of my cardboard spool. Ooh, get all the way under there and make sure you get them all cut off the spool. And make sure you get the one that's in the catch so it comes off the cardboard easily. Oh, I think I have a couple in there that aren't cut. Just take your time and get your wires off the spool. And I just straighten them out with my fingers. Be careful of these little ends that you don't get cut. If there are any odd ones that are bits from the catch or just a half a wire, you can just kind of pull those out or not. But I just straighten it out. Then I get a little piece of tape Get a small bit of painter's tape. This is the bottom center of the wire. So this is the center of the wire. So this is one half of the tree and the other is the other half of the tree. And this is the part that will fold underneath your crystal or rock or seashell object. So I like to work with one side at a time. I just tape up the one side about a half an inch or so off of the center. I think I've got about 3/4 of an inch, and that's okay. And then so that they don't catch on each other, I come down here and I cut all these little curved ends off. And you'll do this over your garbage can. Put your finger over here to shoot all of the shards down. But you'll do this over your garbage can, and that'll give you all nice and smooth wire that won't catch on itself. It's all curved like that because we cut it off of our spool. So cutting those ends off gives you a nice smooth wire to work with. Okay? And I'll do that to both sides before I get started. Just go ahead and cut this one off. So once you have both ends smooth, you'll come down here and we're going to work with, kind of the center here to get both sides started a little bit. And I like to just divide these up into 4 little segments. They don't have to be perfect. Just kind of part them out. Keep all your wires under control. And just make 4 partings in these wires, just like that. And then about 1/4 of an inch or so off of the center, you'll take and start twisting. Give 3 times until you reach about the center mark. Excuse me. And then go to this side and start twisting about 3 times to get those tied together. And then you can come here to the middle. And what I like to do first is, these are all straight, so I twist these and then I twist these together. So I'll come here and part this one. I'm working with just the inside, and these are actually roots, and then we'll work up into the tree trunk and the branches. So we're kind of building the tree from the bottom up. And I'm just going to make a couple of soft twists to get this strand together. And then I don't even have to part them. It's a little easier if you part them a little bit to twist them together, but you can just get these two kind of softly twisted together there like that. And then put these two together. Give a little space there because your crystal needs to kind of fall in to there. And then you'll twist a couple of these together. So we've built some roots. We're starting to crawl up some more roots. We'll build some roots that come up here, and then we'll twist all this together into a trunk. And obviously we would have wanted to pick our crystal ahead of time, but because you're sculpting these trees in this way, you really can just sculpt several of them and then do your placements, as you choose. But if you don't have an array of crystals, then certainly you want to pick the one you're working with first, so that as you sculpt your tree, you'll get all the interesting stuff, the branches and whatnot, and all the groovy bends on the actual crystal. So for instance, this one, this would be the bottom, maybe even a little lower. And then my branches will start to fan out about mid-crystal. So you just want to keep that in mind if your crystal's a little bit smaller, that, eventually you want to be able to create a tree trunk and then tree branches. So we want to not twist too far along. We want to make sure we fit. So here's the other tree root, and I'll split this in half And it doesn't have to be an equal half, you know that. And I'll twist a few times. And I'll do like 3 or 4 to get a little bit closer and longer, you know, so that I can get up there a little bit and connect with that one. And then I'll do the same for this side. So we've kind of got a little net here for the bottom of our crystal. But it doesn't have to be that way, you know, if the bottom of your crystal is square. And we'll see all that in a minute. We'll try to show us more than one. So I'm just twisting a few times until I feel like I can connect these in an attractive way. Just bend it up here like this. Do a few of these. And then kind of bend it up here like this. And get it kind of all together here. And there might be bits and pieces here. So you just try to make it interesting. And then try to get them half and half. Now you can start blending them here. And you can do one nice big soft twist to get them all together. Do a nice big soft twist. Do a nice big soft twist. 3 of them. And so you've got a nice tree trunk started. And if I'm on a smaller crystal, of course, I'm coming up here to see that my roots fit, and my trunk fits, and then I can start to make branches to capture the top of the crystal, right? I could also, you know, put deep bends and do bonsai style trees in my sculpting. You know, just get your finger in there and bend it. And then place it on your tree and kind of maybe envision the next move. I can see a big thick branch swirling around it this way. Remember that we have this entire other half as well. So, and we don't need to use all that. You know, we can terminate it very easily on the other side, but it's kind of fun to have the thickness of both halves. If your crystal's smaller, you use less wire, right? So that you can, when you bring them together, you don't end up with too much bulk, but a nice proportion to your crystal. I might, you know, if I were doing this one, look how interesting that starts to be. And then we would continue to twist from here, you know, and go to the other side and design another tree up that way, and then eventually meet up all the branches to hug this entire crystal and capture it with our tree. And I think that that should make sense to you. So anyway, set your wires up with a 6-inch or 7-inch cardboard, depending on how much wire you want. We can see here I have 6 inches, and this crystal is 2 3/4 long and 1 inch wide, this piece of selenite, and I have plenty above to work with. These wires also have to give you a bail. So don't think that you can go too short here. So I like to work with a full 12 inches or 13 inches of total wire. And I work one half and the other half at the same time. So, okay. So get your wires set up. Whoop, and put your tape on there and start to sculpt out, you know, your part of the tree here, same as I kind of did here, and we'll continue with this half. And I might just, this selenite is so beautiful, I might just use this big crystal to put this tree on. And so it gives me a lot of room to sculpt. So I might go around another couple of times, and remember that each twist is taking length from you. So if you have, you know, a large crystal you want to capture, you need to have maybe a comfortable 3 or 4 inches at the top here for, you know, a nice bail, like 3 inches, because then you'll bend it over on itself. Okay, so just plan for that. And so I'll kind of just keep twisting, and I think that that's probably good for the body of my tree. I might have it swoop, you know, one more time going that way. And you can, if you feel like you can hang on to it all, you can sculpt on both sides of this wire at the same time. I just like to do one and then I release the tape and I do the other side and then I fold over the crystal. Okay, so I think that's good. And right about here, I'll split these wires. And, you know, I don't have to choose this crystal. At the end of the day, I might just decide to throw it on a nice, big, thick one instead, because it would grab that one pretty good too, if you wanted to wear a piece like this. Anyway, I'm still going to work with this. So I'll split these two, and we'll start to just sculpt our tree out now. I'm going to break a branch out down here. So I'm going to give it about a third, of these strands that I have. And I think I went around my cardboard maybe 30 or 34 times, 33 times, I think. So there's a little branch. I'll take these and twist them all together and give myself another little bit of the main tree. And then I'll split this. And I'll start a branch fanning out this way. Just 2 or 3 little turns. Then I have branches here and here and here. Bring my crystal up. It could go to either side, so see how I love all that? I kind of love all that going on. I'm going to twist this other big thick one out and see how I love all that. Even if I have it on this side, I still have some nice big thick branching I can do here, and then the whole other half of my wire. Okay, so I'll keep going. I'll work with this one. And I'm going to leave it. Remember how trees go. They're usually thicker at the base, and then they taper out, right? So try to kind of keep that in mind as you sculpt out your trees. I like to part these wires, and then I'm going to give a nice turn. Not so tight of a turn, right? So you don't want choppy looking trees. You want nice, elegant bark. And since my crystal's big, I'm going to turn it 2 or 3 or 4 times. Kind of give myself a nice big main branch coming off of this side. And I love that, so swerve it back that way a little bit. But here's a good place for me to break out a small branch. So I'm just going to take half of this pile and give it back to my main tree branch. And this will be my little breakout branch. But that way it keeps all the thickness kind of tapering this way. So I'll split them and I'll do a couple of twists. And I'll leave this one for a breakout branch. And I'll twist this one 2 or 3 times and just leave that to hang out there for a second. Don't cut any of these, because eventually we got to all meet up at the top of your crystal and become the bale wires. So you twist yours out as you see fit for your crystal. Just create your picture. Sometimes you can use a plier if you have a very gentle touch. Help you turn some of these branches. Create some interesting bends on them so you can kind of visualize your sculpture. Beautiful. Twist this one out and this one. So if I'm going to place my tree right here, you know, I want to stay with the interest that stays on the crystal, so I won't twist these too many. I'll just make a couple, and then I'll split these for some small branches down here that come off of that spot. I think I only have 3 little strands there, but that's okay. Just twist them the best that you can. Fold them out like that, then it's a little easier. There we go. And eventually these go to the other side and meet, you know, the tree growing on the other side, the tree hugger. So, and there's, you know, you don't necessarily have to make a tree on the other side either. You can just use those branches as an extension of this tree. So you see how I kind of split those with the interest all right there. I'll just keep. If it gets too tight for you to twist, you can get your little plier up here, and with gentle pressure, let it help you turn these wires. But I like to just pull them out 90 degree and turn them like a can opener. And then you can put them back down. So I'm liking that pretty well. I bring my crystal often up here so that I can see where I'm going with this. And remember that you have a whole nother side of wires, so you can keep a lot of these wires, you know, on this side. Don't feel like you have to randomly, you know, bring them all to the other side. So I fan them out to twist them, and I'll twist more. But then when I do placement, I like to, you know, trees are random, so then you can kind of go over each other, bring them a little closer together and so on, you know, like this, because you got a whole nother side. So I'll continue to twist these littler ones up through there. And then I can also make the trunk of this thicker if I want to add more wire. So there's, you can do everything, right? There's everything that you can do with these. And that'll be beautiful. All right, so keep working on yours and I'll keep working on mine. And once I finish twisting all these out, I like to twist them all the way out because then eventually they all come back together. And you don't need to twist them all the way out. Twist them until you get past the crystal, just past the crystal, because then eventually they all come back together for a veil. Okay, so don't worry too much about them, and some will trim out if it's too thick. Okay, just sculpt until you're sculpt to your little heart's content and make magic on your crystal with your tree. And I'll just keep the video on while I sculpt mine. So if you want to model mine, you can model mine. So pretty. That is going to be so pretty. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. My thicker branches go up. Let's see if I put this down a little further here. My thicker branches go up just beyond halfway, and then they start to get very thin. And I've twisted wires just beyond the crystal, because eventually I'll bring them all together, many of them up here, and join them with the other side, like I said. Okay, so now once you're satisfied with the one side, and my crystal is pretty symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter which way I go, but if yours is shaped oddly, make sure that you know which direction you got. I'll come over here now and just remove the tape from the other side. Straighten all this out. Just be patient. Take the tape off carefully. Get your wires under control. So this is the bottom of the crystal. And if you have a pointed crystal, it's not so much of a big deal because you can leave a little hole right there. And eventually when you bend around the crystal, you can drop the point of it, in between these little roots here to make sure that you catch it. And you can bring your roots up along its side to make sure that you catch it like this. Okay, for a pointed crystal. If you're going to do something like this, and then the other side you would just, sculpt out the rest of your tree and we'll bring them together. I point this out because if you're doing a flat crystal, like what I'm doing, you might consider to bring some of these roots, back over this corner to make sure that we catch this bottom corner. Otherwise, if it's just like this, it can slip back and forth. So we want to make sure that we get a little edge either with, the roots that we sculpt out this way, and maybe we do, something as easy as that, and we drop one down there, but you want to part them out in such a way that we've got the whole bottom of this crystal, and this one's pretty rough, so it'll grip this, so this is probably enough, but judge yours the way you need to make sure that you've got a nice capture down here for the bottom of your crystal. Okay, and I kind of like the way that just happened, so I might just leave that and sculpt out the other side and then tweak it a little bit more. So that's pretty good. I know I turned my tree the other way, but that's what happens sometimes. Okay, that'll eventually look pretty cool. Okay, so now on this side, I can start my roots, climbing up. You can see a natural progression here, and I'll start some roots, and maybe I'll make a different type of tree, and or just a big extension of a branch and have it come around and grab some of these. So visualize what you want to do there. I kind of like the way that's split up, so I might just leave that and play with that a little bit. And then I'll take this half here. You just work carefully. I'll join those two eventually, but I want to make some twists here. They don't need to be big twists. They can be real soft because I like the way it's sculpted over that side. So there's a couple. Same for here. I don't even have to part them really. Just make sure that you're twisting them kind of, in the same direction they might have been going so that you don't untwist them. But here I'll part them a little bit and make a nice big twist. Come back to this side here. Take this one and I'll part it out. Make a big twist to keep it together. This one, remember we're on the roots here. So it doesn't need to be too much because eventually these all come back together into something like that. And maybe I pull that one down this way and come back around, right? So I might bring my crystal up here, take a look at its seat again, And these are very malleable, so even if it doesn't seem like it's fitting perfect right now, I can always make it fit. Okay, and I can also take this little branch and grab the bottom little branch over here, and that'll hold your crystal too. So even if I can't catch that corner in an attractive way, you know, I've got the bottom, I've got the upper 3/4 captured with some of these lower branches, so I'm not stressing it out so much. So if I join here and I join here, the crystal's in there, and then everything else will join up the sides. Okay, so just work yours, and it doesn't even have to be a tree on this back. You could just make, you know, maybe a gnarly bush sculpture or something. But I'll twist a couple of times here to get a little bit further up and get a little bit closer to this one. And then I think what I'm going to do is bring these two together. I'll move this little guy off to the side. And I'll bring these two big ones together. And just remember which way you're turning things so that, I think I'll bring it from the back so I can turn the other direction. And I'll just make a big twist for a trunk and get them all together right there a few times. I might even break out a little one right here on this side actually, so I can go that way a little bit. So I'll leave that there. I'll keep twisting these two big guys together. Put some of this on this side, even it out. And I'll do maybe a few and get up a little bit. I'll go ahead and twist these a few times. I'll do something with this little guy. Let's see what I do with that. When you fit the crystal, you always want to be mindful that your preferred side is actually sitting correctly and on the crystal. Turn it over and then make sure that the side you're working on is doing what you want it to balance things out. And you're keeping mindful of where you can attach. So here's some front ones I'll attractively attach together here and some here. Okay, and then everything at the top. Okay, so I might do some more twists and then bring it kind of back that way because I want it to crawl up a little bit more. I might just leave this one thick. You don't have to split them all. Oh. So here's what my one side is, the back side is looking like. And I'm going to probably just twist this out pretty thick for time's sake. But you can split them as much as you like. I think you get the idea, so that it suits your crystal. That's pretty good for me. So now you kind of got like this little basket on the inside here where your crystal will go. And like I said, my flat crystal, I like that a lot, will sit in here nicely. And I'll make sure that I've got these little edges or I've got branches connecting low enough that my crystal won't fall out. So you'll just seat yours and position your branches in such a way that they're attractive to you. We'll go back and make cute little character bends in them. But for now, you just kind of want to get them sculpted. And of course, they don't go too straight. You don't make branches straight, so you can put little bends in them. And where I like to, so get your crystal seated in there and your tree kind of positioned how you might want it. And then start looking for joins. You know, we don't want everything joining unnaturally, so you want to make little joins as we go to the top. And you can join clusters of them together. Like here I've got several little ones that fall kind of nicely up the side here. And I might just take them all, one, you know, from the back there and then some from the front where it's natural. Save that one for another one. And I'll twist them all together right here into a nice big branch along the side there. And I'll bring these up to the top. So I switched my board up so you could see a little better. So anyway, I just wrapped those two together to start tying some of these halves together, and I wrapped these two together. I brought one from the back and just kind of twirled it around this branch right here to get it attached right there. Okay, so, and remember this, you don't have to hug this crystal, it's in here. So we just have to close these gaps. But you see, I can flare out a little, make it a little more artistic, come away from the crystal a little bit as I'm wrapping these together. I can join some of these if I feel like they're a little spindly and I want to make them a little thicker. And then also, I know I said all wires end up here, but so here on the other side of my crystal, I love this side of the tree, right? That's beautifully sculpted. This side is a little funky, right? It's a little spindly, a little funky. So I can change some of that. I went across with the one wire and wrapped, so it gave me these two little bits right here. I can take one of them and come back down. There's still, you know, you're not 100% tied in there. And even so, there's still room enough that you could pass these wires in and around each other. So I could take this down. I'm going to lift that tree slightly. It's easier on you if you get all these wires together, but that worked out pretty well, actually. And I can bring this wire down here to kind of beef up the lower part of this tree, make it a little more gnarly, and start building some roots, right? Starting to shift here. Just keep yourself under control until it's all tied together. But I could take these now and, create some roots. So I'm on this side. I just came from underneath. I could, if I wanted to, wrap around this leg right here. I love working with this sculpting wire because you can pretty much do as you please, so long as you have the patience for it. Do I need, anything in the front? Could I bring it around to catch that corner if I need to? I don't really need to do that, so I might come and try to fill some of this up. I think you get the idea. So you can always go down with your wires as well, and fill some things up. You can carefully use your pliers, give some little taps, squish them together, make some interest, and so it looks like they belong together. A kind of big vine, extra vine came down there. And then same here. I'll twist it all out, but maybe I'll pull it back a little bit, come over here and slide between these two to lock in, twist it some more. So you're sculpting, and the key here is a lot of patience, right? This is your beautiful sculpture. You can imagine a crystal forest, and that you're building your beautiful little trees for your crystal forest. So you take your time and you're not just wadding a bunch of wires together. Work with little bits, make little vines, sculpt beautiful things. This wire is so much fun. It just lays down nicely for you. And then because it's spindly, we all think that we hate that, but the other part of what's good about it is that it kind of just works back into itself beautifully. So You know, I can come up here, and all I need to do is get a little bit of 28 gauge, twist this all the way out to its end. And if I can't quite squeeze it in between here and there, I can get some 28 gauge and just sew them together, right? Do a little twisting there and sew them on right there. And then I can work down some other pieces. Or if I can, slip through here and keep working it, maybe I will. Let's see if I can. Just be careful, selenite tends to give material when you scrape up against it, but if you work carefully, won't be too bad. Won't lose too much material. So I just came around this corner right here. Just going to make some gnarliness with that big vine. And then I'll come up here and maybe I'll just tuck the end back there and take some 28 and twine it in, right? Just leave it right there and get a bit of 28 and twine that up. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I won't get a whole lot of 28. I'll just get, everything is underneath here. I'll just get a little bit of 28 gauge and feed it in here strategically. Don't make it look like you're tying it. Try to make the turns and the twists go together. But you can discreetly, you know, tie these. Whoop. I think I've got 30 gauge again, but that's okay. Get some 28s, not so fine. See those little ends? I can just discreetly sew them down a little bit. And I'm not sewing on a complete overhand. I'm sewing kind of on a slant because those are all, you know, to make it look a little more natural. Just tack those down. So that's kind of how you can, you know, sew some branches together. And then just twine the wire, you know, wrap the wire down the tree in such a way that it disappears into some invisibility. You can take that little bit and twirl it off rather than bite it. And then there you have some more interest at the bottom of your tree here. Just use my plier and see if I can fix that a little bit, or I can take 28 gauge and, but I've got more wire coming down here, so, oh, that was that one. Just going to lay those down right there for now. They're pretty short, but I'm going to bring some other wire down on top of that. Okay, so just there at the bottom. And here's my little tie wire where I stitched that one back. So that's pretty good. I'll let it hang out there for a minute. And I'm going to bring some interesting structure back into some of these branches so that it's just not so straight. Put some bends in it, go the opposite direction. Figure out where you can tie things together that makes sense and that will enhance the design. So like right here is pretty good. I might do a few more wraps to this one to get it up here to this one. And I'll wrap these two guys together. Kind of lock some more of these sides in. And I don't have to wrap them all the way up, right? So I just did that interesting gnarly little thing there with the branches. Both sides look pretty good. So you're kind of just netting them, right? Making them little nets to each other, but interesting. So put some deep bends. Don't be afraid. You know, and tie things together. Make things gnarly. And I just remember always the goal is that we're trying to get eventually all these wires, crystal cinched up, but all these wires up to the top and anywhere from 3 to 4, you know, bigger branches where they combine again, like this one. It's easier to twist them if they're split. Twist it all the way to the top there. Just work yours with patience. I'm going to keep these as 3 separate ones. I trimmed them up. I took a little, about 1/4 of an inch, I think, off, maybe less, to level some of the ends out. I think I did that off camera, so if you notice they're a smidge shorter, that's why. Plus, as you twist them, they get a little bit shorter. Okay, whew, we're almost there, guys. So, see, these are all tied to my sides. Maybe I'll put these two together. Then I'll bring those two up. See, I just made a little kind of net out of those two. And I might twist this guy all the way up to the top then. Call him John for a minute. I got 2 and 3 little spindly ones there that could add some interest if I need them to. Wrap these up. Yes, I have all of these exciting beads down here that I haven't mentioned yet. I know I'm keeping you in anticipation, but I'm going to make this real whimsical. I decided I'm going to go big. I might do some cute fantasy, whimsy type things on here. Ooh, I might have to rewrap that a bit. So you just, if you back bend on these branches, you just gotta make sure you know where all the ends are and that you ultimately sew them all up. And I might go through with a bigger wire, like a giant vine, as a trick to sew those together and keep the little frayed ends from fraying further. Tie this, finish doing this one. Give love taps with your plier, but not too much because it brittles up the wire, but you can here and there to, structure these pens. I have to remember that that guy's loose down there, and I'll stitch him in a minute. Okay, looking pretty good so far, you guys. And you can see how the crystal's, going to cinch in there. And I might have to get a decorative wire over these bottom shoulders here, but I can do that at the end. Okay. So as I work a little closer up here, see from this side here, I just take this one and join it with this one, since that's a natural and nice direction. I'm holding the interesting parts, obviously on my crystal and on my tree, so it's not necessarily super grip tight. Okay, so I'll put those two together because that looks nice. Okay, so that's kept all my interest, but tied some branches together, and I've got this nice big one here. I've got 3 little interesting bits here. Maybe they'll go this way. Or maybe I'll just put them all together into one big one, because I don't really see the need for these 3 little ones. My eye did not see that, so I'll twist them together. I see that they can be joined, with these two. Make sure your branches are going like you want them before you twist it all together and take all that distance away, right? All that length. You can always untwist these. I'll tell you a secret off camera. I untwisted some of these because I didn't like the way they were shaped, and then I retwisted them. So up here, we're not going to make a standard bale. It's going to be whimsical, tree branches, and then we're going to jump ring it. So I'll show you how we get all that together soon. I've got a few more. Does that look natural going that way? Do I want another branch? I like it going this way. So I'll take it around here also. Just going like that all together. That looks pretty good. And you can see that if I brought those two together, it'd be a natural kind of fit, wouldn't it? Okay. I don't have to do that. I want to sculpt more. I don't want to just twist a bunch of stuff together as a mess on top. So I got one big branch going on over here. I just curve it over here and get this little guy. So he has a big branch partner there. So now we've pretty much whittled, all of these branches back together, or twisted them all back together into some fun and interesting design. But we have 4 big, branches up here at the top to become our veil. And all we really need are areas to clip a couple jump rings. So, or we can even do this with the other wire, but to get rid of these, it's kind of the same idea. And we didn't necessarily need to twist them all the way down, because you might want to twist them into each other too, so you can always separate some. But you're looking to make interesting bends up here and leave yourself, little openings. Good way to do it might be to go crisscrossing, so one from the back, bring it over here to the front, right? And then we'll figure out how to attach in a second. One from the front, turn it over to the back, so you can kind of see the top shape of your tree a little bit with these loops here. Okay, leave it like that, kind of like that. And then this one might end up going that direction. Use little stragglies to tie together, right? These little guys here, every now and again, to tie them together. I try to get these all the way down to a nice little point. I can kind of sculpt it down somewhere. So just like we took this little bit of wire and sewed some of this stuff together down here, so too, this has got to be 30 gauge. It's pretty tiny. So too will I take some 28 gauge and tie those together up there. I'm going to take this wire and just do some strategic sewing. You just want to make sure that you're staying within the lines of your tree so it doesn't look like you're sewing it, right? It looks like it's part of the natural twist that went up there. I think I'm going to get rid of this one and move into a bigger wire. And that's about enough. Gets me all nice and sewed on into a nice discreet place. Break it off within that little joint there. So I stick a bead there later maybe. Okay? Alright. So kind of got these, nice, all these branches kind of coming up into these 4 or 5 nice big pieces. So in order to make a nice bale, what I don't want is just a bunch glommed onto the top. I'll take these and, bring them over the crystal if they're in front of that side, and I'll find a nice place to, attach these branches with a little bit of spare wire that I'll get, just like we did earlier. Or I can use the wire when I sew little beads on to sew these on. But for now, I'm going to twist this out, and I might just bring it down along here. At these ends, you can get your plier And just be gentle, but just let your plier help you bring it to a nice point. And just kind of comb it down. So you've got a nice, something that you can work into that little crevice right there. And now I'm going to get a piece of 26 gauge. This is 26 gauge. I'm stealing it from that other one right there. And I'll just find a nice strategic place to attach. We want to attach and look natural. So I'll go right here. And you see my spirals are going this way. So that's how I'm going to coil it, so that I'm not going against the twists of my branches. Right? So I'm right down on those loose bits. I'm going to get a nice tie on them, holding on to my fragment so it doesn't travel. And then I'm going to do nice long diagonal wraps to attach this branch. And my wraps are, you can see it, it's going in the direction with the twists of the tree branch. So it looks fairly natural. Then you can kind of tap them together a little bit. You have this beginning fragment right here to do one or two more at the beginning if you need to. So I just made one or two little wraps right there. Here's my tie wire. I don't necessarily need to wrap it anymore because it's on there. So I'm just going to let this wire hang out in case I need it, and I'll start to make some of the other bends. So that's the bend we just made and tied on. So here's another one here, and I might do that one because my tie wire happens to be right over there. Just play with it, find a place. Can it come down and become part of this branch over here? Still pucker out a little bit, but just come back and become part of something here or something down this way. I'm going to travel down this way because my wrap wire happens to be here. And remember that, you know, you've got two sides of the tree here. So if you have a favored side, make sure that that's the side you're mostly focused about. So if that's an unnatural move, you know, then, and it wrecks the front side and you don't like that, then don't do it. Got a little bit of space right there so that I can get a jump ring through. And I might take this one and join it with this one. I might just do a nice loose swirl down this way. I think I like that, and then I can, this is pretty thick, these over here. So I might just keep it all, the thick stuff all down one side here. I might trim some of this away. I'm going to try to tuck it right into there and just kind of make a thick side of my tree here. So trim all that out. I did trim it at an angle. Oop. Don't untwist. Twist. I cut it at an angle just to slim it down there a little bit. Then I'm going to make some nice, interesting bend. I have this other one here too that I might move. Put this guy more to the outside. I think I'm just going to bring them right into there and use the tie wire that I already have living. Well, I can't jump it, so I'll leave this guy right here for a minute and I'll get, if I had enough on this beginning one, and maybe I do, let's see. Maybe I can just grab it. Try to make a few wraps here to get that, those ends, to get this bit tied together. Yeah, I'm against the grain, but that's okay. I covered that up. It doesn't look too bad on the side there. Okay, so I made 2 wraps. I don't necessarily need any more, but to make it natural, I'll just take a couple of wraps up one of these branches. And again, if you pay attention to it, try to go in the direction of that the wrap's naturally going already. Sometimes you can't always do that. Depends on how you come through them. I'm going to try to start back here so I can do that. So I undid a few. So that I can come in the right direction. Trying to get rid of those little ends right there. As well as tie some of these bits together. That's pretty good. Probably going to stash some beads right there and cover that up. Because I can. So I'll make some wraps to get those ends. There we go. I'll use my plier and just tuck them back. I'll leave this guy here in case I want to hide it with the bead there. So I just took that over the shoulder, that big branch right there of my crystal. And, you know, it's attached to these 3 with that little twine, so it isn't going to fall apart right there. They're all tied together. I'll get this one up here. Play with it until you think it looks perfect for you. I think I undid this by accident. That's okay. It's pretty all right there. I'll stitch those back together. Okay, so just keep going. I'm going to take this one and come down and around this way. I don't like that, so I'm going to bring it back up here. Maybe bring these 2 together into a nice big wrap. And then bring this one together into it. That looks pretty good. And I can just kind of strategically lay these back down to my less preferred side, leaving, you know, a little bit of a something there so that I can put a jump ring through. Okay? So if you wrap them all together, it's difficult because then it's just one big wad of wire. But if you can work these ends so that they're neatly together, and then kind of bring them down pretty good there. In an interesting way. I can stitch them together right there. Trim out these little straggles. Get nice clean twisting. And I'll just stitch them together right there a little bit. And I'll stitch this one, all together right here a little bit, and that'll look great. And then I'll put some jump rings on, and then we'll decide what to do next. That guy needs a bead ball right there because that's a little bit of a mess, but I'll fix it up. Okay, so let's get, I don't need any more of this 26 gauge, so I'm going to tighten this up, make sure I've got that wrap that I want there, and I'll make a couple of wraps. Maybe I'll just go around this big one right here. And try to stash this tie wire. Maybe I'll come up here and just stitch a few things together since I'm traveling up here with this. And there is enough length on it. So you see the long stretches I'm making. And then when I get up here, I can use this one. What do I need for it? Pass it over here to the front. Just make sure you don't have any little, stretch wires. And I'll come stitch these two together. Right in there. Just made a locking stitch right there that's real discreet. And then looking at all of this, kind of need to come down here and work these guys. So I'll do that. Travel down the branch up here and conveniently wrap these together also with this 26 gauge. Remember, there's two pieces here, this one and this one. So I just come across and stitch those. And now I want to get this stitched down to the pendant right here. So I'll pass, I'll go one more time onto here. Hopefully you can see this, but I'll just use this little tie wire now and get a branch underneath. The one underneath this guy. Just make sure you're still going at your nice slant so it looks natural. And I'll stitch them into this spot right here. There's a few branches back here. But I don't want to lose the interest. I'm just going to get this one. I'm going to get my tie wire right in there. Just keep control of things. It's okay. It's a tree. So it's okay if it has little... You can hear the Jolene chaos in the back. She's being scolded. And so here I'm going to get my straggly ends by just getting my wire around here. So you see I just kind of tuck those, just roll them in. I've got the tie wire and I'm just going to kind of continue. It takes a little bit of work, for sure. And I just keep going down a stitch or two. And then I can get rid of this wire. Or you leave it there in case you think you're going to drop some beads on there, which we might do actually. I've got enough. I'm just gonna, I like to end them in these little armpit crevices. So I'll leave it there, and then if I want to stitch some beads, I can. So we just did that nice big gnarly big branch. We just tied it all together there. So this is sculpting, right? Just make interest and make gnarly things, make it look old. That looks pretty good. And then I have this other one. This is my preferred side, so this is the side I'm concerned with. And I have this other one. Come down and I'll stitch it, maybe just to this bit over here. I'll cut some of this off, or twist it up some more, whichever works out better for you. I just twist it up because then it makes the distance and tucks nicely right there. Okay, just like that. So I could, this is not very much, I'll leave it there. Get another piece, 26 gauge, take it about 1 foot long. Whew. A lot of work, gang. That's what trees are all about. I know, I'm splashing these beads everywhere. And so right up here I'll find a discrete place to tie on so that I can make sure that my wire is coiling down with that branch. I'm going to leave a bunch up here because I'm going to start my beads here in a minute. So it's going this way. So I'm going to attach it way down here, but I'm going to travel down the wire a little bit to get attached onto the wire itself. So see, I'm not attached yet, but I'm attaching this wire by doing these long, very long sloping coils. And then down here I'm going to try to get these little loose ones, right? And now I'm attached to all that. And I can take this end and very discreetly start to wrap it on right here. Okay, so that's pretty good. It's pretty clean. And I have my tie wire sitting right here, so I can use it for beads if I need to. Just want to check and make sure if you need to trim a little straggly or two, or cover it up with a bead. Okay, and then we've got this one down here that was still loose. Could probably deal with him. Same thing. I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to bring some thicker wire through here. I might just tuck it right there for now. Give a little interest there. Okay, so now let's evaluate everything. Woo! So that looks pretty good up top. I like both sides of my pendant, and I've got interesting roots, and I've got an interesting tree sculpture on both sides. Just take this and draw more wire up and onto the crystal if you need to. Careful with your selenite, I just chipped some. Whew, okay. I think I'm going to get rid of this little one here. It's done enough. I still got my ends right there. So I've got my tie wires up here. If I don't feel like I need to tie anything more together, I can get rid of them. I think I'm just going to continue with this one and coil through all of these. It's only going to be one or two more. Let's give it some more stability. Just kind of going with the coiling of your tree branches. I'm just going to tie a few things, make sure it's all nice and clean together. And then I can add a wire if I want to add beads. You know, use another tie wire for adding beads. I want this bit down here a little cleaner, so I'm going to use this wire and do coils right here to make it a little cleaner. My coils are all slanted, just trying to make this branch look more substantial and deliberate instead of a hot mess right here on its edge. And that's really all you need to do, the patience to take these single strands in the direction that the tree is coiled in, so that you can add wire, tie wires together, and make it look nice and seamless. Okay? And I'll continue to do that. And then up here, we have a nice and interesting design for our tree, and certainly we can stick a jump ring, or stick here and go into a chain. Okay? And then you can harden all that up with little love taps, and also with additional wire. So we're not necessarily done yet. Coil a couple more. So if you want to start doing beads on here, you know, then you have these wires that are already attached, and you can do our normal green beads, or you can do something fun and whimsical and, you know, add little bits of copper and metal kind of colored seed beads here and there, you know, or little flowers if you know how to make flowers. I don't know how to make flowers, so I'm probably just going to scatter lines of beads here and there. I've stitched a few there. I'll leave this short guy for nothing, and I'll make it come up and I'll twirl around. Make sure I'm going in the right direction here. Careful you don't poke yourself with some of this I just did. Get a few of those added on. You can also add various sizes. Ooh, get all these to the side. So for instance, I have different size copper beads. Those are copper colored seed beads, but I have copper beads as well. So I can use a mix of the seed beads, which are very small. And then I can drop, you know, 1 and 3 millimeter bigger copper or metallic colored beads for interest, and then sew that guy into that corner there. So you go through and make little clusters like this here and there as you love them, of various sized metal beads, and it looks very festive. And then I have some very tiny ones that are a little bit more red. So I'll just keep sewing up here and there, and you can do yours to your liking. So cute. And I've got very random, seed beads and copper round beads as well. So it's fun and whimsical. And you'll just trim them. I love it. So I hope you enjoyed that. You can keep working yours to your liking. The question probably is, do you patina this? Not on selenite. If this were, a different rock, like one of the ones I showed you earlier, sure. Selenite, we might disintegrate the crystal a little bit, but you could try it. It's up to you. I'm probably just going to let it patina naturally. Or if I want to preserve it with Protect Clear, I'll very painstakingly put paper between the crystal and the wires, and I'll paint those wires and the beads with Protect Clear. Or you just leave it this way and it'll patina naturally in time. And as it darkens and as you wear it, you would just give a little scrub with polishing cloth on your metals. And then over time, it'll develop its own natural patina, just like maybe you put one there. So it's up to you. All right, you guys, work yours. And then I'll see you back here once all of those are on. And then we'll maybe put a large decorative wire. We'll see. Okay. So that's looking really cute so far. And I'll just continue to add beads and clusters of these various size copper seed beads and copper beads. It's kind of like a chaos curls, and they don't, you don't have to fill in all the white space. Like I could have that and a couple here and leave some branches in between so you see the beautiful work. So just like the beads are kind of dripping off of the tree. So fun. All right, you guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. Here's my finished tree on my gorgeous giant piece of selenite. And then I went ahead and did another one just to give you another option of a design. And then this one isn't finished, but I'll show it to you. This one's a wand. And I used the same amount of wire on all three of these. And I just took this one up kind of without so many branches and kept them a little bit thick and snaked them and coiled them up this big selenite wand, and then I beaded them the same. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to cap this off yet. I'll probably make a wire cap of some type, a decorative cap to cover all these wire ends, but you can do yours to your liking if you're trying crystals like this. And then, like I said, you just put a couple of jump rings in there and go to a chain from that. So hopefully you had a great time and enjoyed this. Please push the like button and leave me a comment. Let me know how you feel about them. And please subscribe to my channel so that you get notified of when I upload more beautiful and fun tutorials like this one. All right, you guys, I always appreciate you being here with me to create beautiful wire wrap jewelry, and I will see you for the next one. Take care. Much love.